Dear white evangelical Christians, you guys bet your entire eternal soul on a man you went on cable news and said was God's chosen vessel. You put this man on your church pamphlets next to King David and Jesus himself. This man, you said, would lead the United States of America back into a Christian moral revival. And Donald Trump just lost 21 points in polls with you. In just over a year, his net approval rating amongst Christian evangelicals dropping from 51% in February to 30% in April. That was February of last year to April of this year. 21% drop. NPR, PBS News, Marist, they did this poll, and white evangelicals, the 82 to 17% voting bloc that elected Donald Trump the last election, they're bleeding out. And in this poll, it ran from late April, the 27th through the 30th, 64% of white evangelical Christians still approve of Donald Trump. They still approve of him being president. Yet 34% disapprove. That's a gap, a plus of 30%. In late January of this year, 3 months before this poll, the same survey showed 69% approval, 29% disapproval. So Donald Trump lost 10 net points with evangelicals in just 90 days. And if you keep going back to last year, he lost even more. He is tumbling with the very people who want to sanctify him. In just 14 months, in his second term, with the most evangelical-friendly cabinet in American history, a stacked Supreme Court that gutted the Voting Rights Act, state-by-state abortion enforcement, the Department of Education attacking trans students, you have a Christian nationalist running the House of Representatives, delivering everything white evangelicals said they wanted in policy. And Donald Trump still lost 21% in the polls. They turned out for him previously, and now they've turned on him. And I break it down to 3 things here. 3. First, it's Iran. Because Iran is hitting us in the pocketbooks. It doesn't care if you're Christian. It doesn't care if you're an atheist. It cares about their pocketbook. They can't afford gas. They can't afford groceries. And these people, if you were not familiar, they were the people that wanted no new wars. That is what Donald Trump promised them. Instead, we have this war that was over, but it's not over, and it's costing billions of dollars, and they can't afford gas. They're watching family members get deployed. They're watching the CIA leaking memos to try to tell Donald Trump, stop. Then, number 2, the Epstein files. The Howard Lutnick island stories, the flight logs, Donald Trump on the manifest, the federal subpoenas. White evangelicals do not love finding out that the man that they said was God's chosen one was best friends with the most documented child abuser in modern American history. They don't love that. Now, some of them, they're still going to sit with it in their hearts for a little bit. But some of them are leaving. And then, number 3, the grift. At first, they loved it. But then it aged like fine milk. The $250 Bibles, the Trump trading cards, the colognes, the sneakers, the watches, the $400 million plane from Qatar, his crypto coin, the stock in Truth Social. Eventually, evangelicals will notice that their pastor's profit is essentially no better than a guy on QVC running the Oval Office. And that's what they start talking about in Bible study. That's what they start talking about. And the first thing that these pastors are reporting back to polling places like Pew is that the merchandise has gotten embarrassing. And now, of course, Donald Trump doesn't believe it. He called Newsmax when he sees these polls and says, it's a problem, I'm not on the ballot. Everyone says if I were on the ballot, we'd win in a landslide. I'd have some of the best poll numbers I've ever had. Some of the best poll numbers he's ever had. His overall national approval rating is at 37%. Disapproval at 59. That is a net of minus 22, the worst approval of his entire second term, and he is in a free fall. And he's on Newsmax bragging that his poll numbers would be the greatest of all time. And of course, the White House, from their temporary spokesperson, Davis Ingle, was to say that the polls were fake because the ultimate poll was November 5th of 2024. The election was the poll. So we don't have to look at polls. We don't care about what you think. They don't care about you. And evangelicals, they are finding that out right now. Donald Trump, the man who couldn't name a single Bible verse, he's not on your side. But I've got to say something, Democrats. Do not get cocky. Don't. Because first of all, these evangelicals, it doesn't take much to get them to the polls. It doesn't take much persuasion to get them out of their pew and voting. And you have to understand that this will not be a fair and free election. And that is why we've got to do everything we can, starting today, to make sure that we turn out to the polls and that our votes are counted. Do me a favor. I'm going to be covering stories like this, the white evangelical free fall, the election in November, all of it. And I want to make sure you guys get notified when I do. So hit that notification icon and you will find out every time I do a story like this.